Hey guys, and welcome back to shit. Sorry. Hey guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of In the Barn. I'm Robin.
And I'm Kelsey, and in today's episode, we're going to take another look at the problems with social media, but this time we're looking at supplements. Not only do we have a few questions about the quality and promise these products make in their ads on social media, but so do you. We have received quite a few listener questions asking what's up with these supplements. Received quite a few emails over the past few months with listeners asking questions about certain products, certain supplements that they see advertised all the time on Facebook. I see them advertised all the time on Facebook too, or advertised by certain writers or certain podcasts. Actually, a lot of feed companies, like both of these supplements, one has a YouTube page and the other has a podcast page. And they're essentially just like their own, they're just reviews. They're just like their own promotions. It's just basically a big commercial for their product. We like getting listener questions and we like trying to help you guys be better horse owners and provide more information, because I think that's like the goal of this podcast is just to create better horse owners everywhere, right? Like we all want to know what's the right thing to do and to give our horses. And when we see ads like this, is this truly a product as good as it says, or is this just another scam or gimmick?
Right. And sometimes it's kind of hard to actually find out anything about these products because some of their websites are not very transparent at all. Like you have to really dig to even find their ingredients list.
My two, I'm looking at Equinety and GutX for the two I decided to look at that we were asked about. And they both say their ingredients list, but the one's website was clearly made by like a high schooler trying to get to word count, like trying to write enough words, because it's mostly just like really vague, random things that are like, okay, that really has no impact here, but thanks.
Yeah, I was looking at Biomain and Stressless, and Stressless was the one that had kind of a really confusing website, and then the language they used was so non-committal and just so vague. One of the things they say is like promotes reduced anxiety, and I'm like,
promotes reduced anxiety.
Like what?
Like reduced anxiety is an option. Like, yeah, you can't just give your horse more reduced anxiety. Yeah, to say promotes reduced anxiety means like reduced anxiety is something you give your horse. Like, here, have some reduced anxiety.
But like, it doesn't even say that. It can't even say that it reduces anxiety. All it can say is that it can promote the reduction potentially of anxiety. And it's like, well, that was a roundabout way to get nowhere.
Well, that's because a lot of this is just not backed up with any research. So they just like throw out random phrases and hope you don't actually need to know what that phrase means.
True. Very true.
So with that, I think, do I just jump in and start talking about our supplements and the research behind them, if any?
Yeah, you take it away.
So the first supplement I looked into was Equinety. So Equinety is advertised. They have a lot of sponsors or a lot of like sponsored riders, and then they sponsor a lot of different horse shows. And you can find their ads all over Facebook. Essentially, Equinety they have two different products that they make. I actually thought this was really funny. Their tagline on their website is helping horses worldwide. They have two products and only one product is available outside the US.
Yeah, so not very worldwide, but
yeah, not real worldwide yet, but they're getting there. I think it's more of like a manifestation of things to come. They are based in Florida, and so they are basically, it's a dietary supplement. It's like a powder that you feed your horse. I'm looking at specifically equinety-horse-xl. They have two different products, but equinety-horse-xl is like their main one that is available worldwide. So they promote this product as improving muscle support for strength and recovery, stronger collagen for healthier coat and bones. It maximizes performance with cell regeneration, increases focus for more responsive. That's their ad. Increase focus for more responsive.
More responsive? Like it just ends?
Yeah, it just ends.
More responsive what?
I don't know. More responsive something. But it is a 100% pure amino acid supplement. So it is a little bit different from a lot of other supplements that are on the market as it just focuses on amino acids only. There's, I believe, 8 different amino acids that are in it. It also has no fillers, no sugar, no starches, no soy. It is all amino acids. So according to Equinity's LinkedIn page, or the president of Equinity's LinkedIn page, Equinety is a 100% all-natural formula specifically designed to enhance the life of your horse for increasing energy and endurance, strengthening your horse's bones, collagen, and muscles to improve your horse's natural immune system and vitality. Equinity's Horse XL patented formula customizes itself to your horse's needs by adding 1 or 2 scoops to your horse's food on a daily basis. But basically, like, their website again makes a ton of really vague claims about things that this supplement can do. They say, does your horse suffer from any of these conditions? And then it goes on to list like poor top line, gut issues, stressed, not focused, laminitis, founder, allergies, dull coat, mane and tail won't grow, sore, cracked hooves, thin soles, torn muscles. Like, it goes on and on. My favorite is rescue. Does your horse suffer from rescue?
Like it's a rescue horse?
I don't know. I was like, I don't know what that means. And they're like, so Equinety will help with all of those things. Like, if my horse is rescue.
That's a bold claim to make.
It also, they do claim it will help with things like bone fractures.
I don't think so.
Yeah, some of this stuff is pretty, like, out there. And sure, I think, like, a lot of that comes from the idea that, like, amino acids, right, which are the building blocks of life, amino acids create protein chains. Yes, amino acids can do a lot of things. They're kind of just doing that on their own. It doesn't necessarily mean your horse needs a supplementation or be supplemented in order for their body to function normally. Like, that's right. That is what amino acids do. If you go to their website, do they have any research? Do they back up any of these claims? And they do not. But they did pay a Dr. Philip White to do voiceovers of YouTube videos. I don't know who Dr. Philip White is. He has no credentials. Like, I tried to Google Dr. Philip White and I couldn't find him. But they did pay him to do some, like, 30 minutes of voiceover work on some YouTube videos, basically explaining 9th grade biology. So that was, and I love that when companies do this all the time. They just basically use biology to explain how their product works and why their product will benefit your horse. It's like, yeah, all of those things were already happening without your product. Like, you spent 30 minutes explaining how a cell functions. I don't need to know how a cell functions. Like, I got it, right? Like, that's not, your product's not doing that. Your product's not making a cell function.
All they do is they just tell you, like, what ingredients actually make up, like, these different parts of the body or something, and then they just throw it into a supplement and they're like, yeah, look, it's going to make that even better.
Yeah, and that is, like, really true with amino acids. So what is an amino acid? We've talked about this, I think, I guess most of us probably remember, like I said, that amino acids are like the building blocks of life. They are what creates proteins, and building blocks of life is like the catchphrase for amino acids. But proteins are digested or they're created within the body. They do things to break down food, to grow the body, to repair body tissue, and they perform many of your body, like help your body perform many of its functions. There are 3 types of amino acids, which are essential amino acids, which cannot be made by the body. An essential amino acid is something that you have to get from your diet. And those include histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. So those are all essential amino acids. And then there are non-essential amino acids, which are the ones your bodies can create all on their own. They don't need any additional help, like the body creates them and from the foods they eat. And then conditional amino acids are amino acids that are not created or they're not considered essential, so you don't need them from your food until you're in a time of stress or illness. And that may include heavy workload. So if you're doing a lot of exercise, your body is very stressed, then these may become required amino acids.
Okay, that makes sense.
How amino acids work is essentially when your horse is being exercised, or even you, when you're exercising, your muscles start to lose amino acids and they kind of release them into the bloodstream. And any extra amino acids that your body doesn't need will leave the body via sweat or urine. Once the exercise has completed, those amino acids will then be restocked by like the spleen. So they start to the blood gets recycled, more amino acids are added to the blood, and then that blood circulates and replenishes the muscles. So it's a weird like turnover process that your body's kind of constantly doing with amino acids. And this is why there's like a huge market around protein supplements for after the gym, right? Like, how many of us know a guy that needs a protein shake 45 minutes after he goes and does his workout? That's because because they're trying to replenish those amino acids that got lost during the workout that are now going to be put back into the body.
I feel like I'm back in ninth grade biology now.
A little bit. It's important to understand how amino acids work so you can understand if equinety would even have any benefits. So it's important to know that horses and humans do not utilize amino acids at the same rate, or release them, lose them, replenish them at the same rate. And a lot of this has to do with the difference in diet. Humans are omnivores. We eat protein, we eat meat and plants. Horses just eat plants. And so horses need to break down amino acids and use amino acids very differently in their bodies than humans do. So this really limits our ability to use human research on horses when it comes to amino acids. And that is still sort of standard practice. I found a literature review in 2020 that went through everything that was available and kind of went to go set up parameters for future amino acid testing, saying that you cannot use human studies and human sort of parameters because it just doesn't apply to a horse that has a totally different diet, meaning it has a totally different need for amino acids. They're all the same amino acids, and I think that's where people get tripped up, right? We still have the same 20 essential amino acids, but those amino acids are going to be different. The rate of utilization is different between the two animals. Another side note when it comes to amino acids is that we have not done very much, or if any, research into how horses utilize amino acids. We've done a lot of research into how much protein a horse needs per day, but understanding how many amino acids and what kind of amino acids they need and when they need them, that sort of next layer to that protein question, we've not done that. We don't really have any research that goes into that. And then the last side note is that protein needs for a horse is going to vary greatly depending on how much work they're doing. And so that means their amino acid needs are going to vary greatly on how much work they're doing. So when we look at a lot of these supplements, equinety is not the only amino acid supplement that we have. The dosage is going to vary on what your horse is going to need greatly depending on how much they're being worked. So like a horse, right, who is not being worked or low amount of riding.
A low riding horse. I just imagine him like having to go sideways over speed bumps.
Okay, like a horse that's in low work, like in the low amount of work to no work, isn't going to need that replenishment. And that's because horses produce between 3 and 5 times more protein a day than they actually need. So your average horse and your average amount of work does not need the supplements. I found a 2015 study that looked at the sweat-facilitated losses of amino acids in standardbred horses and the application of supplementation strategies to maintain condition during training. So essentially what this study wanted to do was it wanted to determine how much amino acid was being lost, or like what type of amino acids were being lost in the horse's sweat during workout or after work. So they took a blood sample before the horse ate its food, then it was fed a high protein diet, and then was fed a amino acid supplement called Fatigue Reviva, which is actually designed for humans, and it's a human supplement that has like shown moderately good results with humans. I would say I looked at their studies, and 65% of men who tried it like weren't fatigued and found it palatable, which really isn't great. Like, I don't know that means it works, but 65% of men thought it was drinkable. Basically, this had 20 amino acids, 13 vitamins and minerals, and again was formulated for people. And then they just like increased the amount they gave to the horses in order to match the horse's weight. So these horses went through racehorse training. So they were standard breds that were on the track, exercised these horses, and then took blood samples before and after, as well as amino acid samples or sweat samples from 3 different locations from the chest, the stomach, and between the hind legs in order to determine what amino acids were being lost and if there was a different rate of amino acids in the blood than in the sweat. And what they found was that there was 5 amino acids that were in greater quantities in the sweat than they were in the horse's blood. And this included serine, glutamic acid, histidine, phenylalanine, and aspartic acid. So those 5 were in like much higher, almost 3 times. For like serine was like 3 times higher in the sweat than it was in the plasma. And they had lower concentrations of glutamine, cysteine, methionine, and asparagine were lower concentrations in the sweat than they were in the blood. What this study basically concluded was not that those 5 amino acids needed to be replaced or that something was going on. What they determined that this study meant was that the horses had a design, right? The way a horse is designed is to maintain certain amino acids and to lose certain amino acids, so that there is these other factors that are going on that are important to how many amino acids or what amino acids that horse is retaining versus what it's losing. So what's being lost in the sweat are probably amino acids that horse doesn't need in that moment. And what's being retained in the blood are amino acids that horse is going to need. So when you look at Equinity's list of amino acids, it does not have any of those amino acids that are being lost in the sweat. Maybe that's good, maybe that's not good, because we don't know what that next step is. We don't know why those amino acids are being lost at higher rates in the sweat. We just know that the body is able to lose them at higher levels in the sweat for some reason, and that seems to be on purpose. That seems to be the body's designed. The other thing they found is that amino acid concentrations were different in the chest versus the stomach versus the legs. And so that also means that different metabolisms were happening in different locations of the body, and that certain muscles needed different sets of amino acids than other muscles. All of this is to say, when we're talking about giving something like Equinety, when we're talking about giving amino acids as a replacement for those hardworking horses, because these are all horses that are in intense training programs, and we're looking at supplementing them in order to achieve, like to improve recovery time, to improve muscle development, sort of some of those things that Equinety claims their product does. One, don't know if that's necessary. We don't know if those are the right ones. We don't know if the ones that are being retained by the blood are being retained at a level that is significant or is considered critically limited. We don't know enough about horses. All we know is that yes, they lose amino acids in their sweat, and they lose different amino acids in their sweat than humans. We can't say that we absolutely need an amino acid supplement post-workout in order to rebuild muscles. Does it seem like something that's potentially viable and a potentially like an idea that potentially works? Yes, but there's no science that says it.
The potential is there for it. However, we don't know, we can't confirm it, and their long list of claims they're saying it does probably is maybe like 3 of those.
The reason I chose this is because when it comes to amino acids in horses, there's not a lot of research, right? There's very little research. We have this study that looks at the sweat that was done in 2015, and it's not done by the most, it was peer reviewed, but not done by the most rigorous journal by any means. There's another study that was done in 2020 titled Modeling of Amino Acid Turnover in Horses During Training and Racing. And the reason I looked at these 2 studies is because these are being done by supplement companies, or are looking, not necessarily, the one is done by a supplement company, the 2015 one was not, but they are trying to figure out, well, what supplements now can we use? Based off of this information, what does that tell us about supplements? And it tells us that we're losing amino acids, and it's on purpose, and the body has its own regulation method for maintaining certain amino acids and losing others, but it doesn't tell us anything else. Like, we still have to do further research to determine which of those and at what quantities, right, that we would even need to replenish them at.
Right, because you don't want to be overloading the body with certain things, because that is an issue, is that, you know, there's a fine line between the horse's diet being deficient in that and the horse's diet being in excess of that. And occasionally with these, when their diet is in excess of a specific like mineral or vitamin, it can actually cause other issues to go on with their bodies.
Yeah, and amino acid toxicity is not something that has really been considered with any of these studies.
Yeah.
The 2020 literature review I looked at did discuss that we do need to make sure we are monitoring what this upper cap is to avoid toxicity levels, but we've not, the research isn't there yet.
Right. So, would you use this product? Would you give this to your own 4-legged beasts?
Not yet. So I definitely think we should put a pin in Equinety and come back to it in a few years. I don't think we're there yet, but I do think they may be on to a few claims. And the other claim that I think we're going to need to understand a lot better is their claim about laminitis.
Oh.
And that is one of the photos, one of their most common ads that I see all the time on Facebook is comparing a before x-ray and an after x-ray of a horse's hoof. You know, I think that's a huge claim to make, that your product can help with laminitis. And if you look at that x-ray, it does appear that improvements have been made in that hoof. You see in the first picture on that x-ray a really thin sole, and you see what maybe looks like separation between the coffin bone and the hoof wall, which would be a sign of laminitis or damage to the laminae. In the second photo, that separation looks like it's maybe not there, and if it's gone, your laminae is not going to reattach through supplementation. You're not reattaching your laminae. Once it's unattached, it's unattached. But it could also just be the toe and the fact that the horse has had really poor hoof care for a while. So there's a lot of question marks about that image. But they do make claims about laminitis, and they even had a review about laminitis and that their product has helped cure or help improve a horse with laminitis. So there has been some research that was done in 2021 that looked at what happened to the amino acids in horses during insulin-induced laminitis. One of the ways that horses suffer from laminitis, and one of the more common ways, is due to increased insulin in the body. So this is a study that was published in 2021 in the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine, titled Plasma Amino Acid Concentrations During Experimental Hyperinsulinemia in two laminitis models. So basically what they did is they had a group of 8 geldings whose median age was 6.3 years. And then they had a second group, group 2, which had 6 geldings and 2 mares, and their median age was about 6.4 years. So this is one where you're probably going to want your tissues. The horses in group 1 were confined to stocks for 48 hours, and they were receiving a constant dose of insulin. So basically they had a needle inserted into their jugular and just were received for 48 hours constant amount of insulin.
No.
Group 2 was put in cross ties for 66 hours and received a constant dose of glucose. After 72 hours, all the horses were euthanized due to they all had laminitis now.
Oh my God, those poor horses.
Yeah. The horses in group 1 became pretty lame, that standing became uncomfortable. Or group 2 didn't display the same amount of lameness immediately, but they were definitely everyone. I think there was one horse that wasn't lame.
Oh my God, that's so awful. At least they put them down and didn't just set them loose with horrible lameness for the rest of their life. But the poor ponies.
That's the issue with research, is how do we conduct research in a way that doesn't make me cry. What this study found was that after the first 6 hours of basically the induction of high insulin levels, either through straight sugar or through straight insulin, that all 20 amino acids dropped in half. Some of the amino acids rebounded at the 30-hour mark. Some were also cut in half again, but all amino acids were cut in half at that 6-hour mark. Sure, there is a connection between high insulin levels and low amino acids. However, if your horse has laminitis, one of the first things you do is manage their insulin levels. So this idea of feeding amino acids for laminitis is only going to be useful for a window of time, right? So if theoretically we confirm, and that hasn't been done yet, but if we confirm that feeding amino acids during the onset of laminitis prevents laminitis or reduces its impact, that's only going to work for the first 48 hours, that first attack, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, it's going to balance back out, and you're going to have to manage their diet and manage those insulin levels long term. So it wouldn't necessarily be a supplement that you would feed long term. It would be useful if your horse got into a bag of grain and you fed amino acids or immediately after you found them gorging in the feed room. That may be when it would be useful, but we don't have that confirmation yet. So that's why I say with Equinety, I think there's potential for this supplement to be really cool. We also know that amino acids do play a huge factor when it comes to managing insulin levels, that if your horse is on an insulin supplement to manage their insulin levels, look at those ingredients. You've got a bunch of amino acids listed there. So we know there's a connection. We know there's a potential. It's just, I think, a bold claim to make when this isn't a supplement that's targeted specifically at laminitis. It's just whatever, this will do, we'll put amino acids in. So that's sort of my review of Equinety. Again, like I said, they make a bunch of claims they help rescue. I don't know what that means. If this is a product that puts weight on a horse, then that's great. I don't know if that's what they mean, but if they're thinking they're going to, reverse the damaging effects of abuse and neglect that the horse has, had over several years, and that this is mentally going to help them overcome their fear and distrust of humans, that's a cool product. We should talk. And then the only other thing I will point out is that products that are targeted, and maybe you'll get more into this, specifically at coat quality, don't feed a supplement just for coat quality. If you have a horse that has poor coat quality, like they have a dull coat, that their hair is rough, things like that, that's usually an indication that something else is going on. They either have poor quality feed in general, or they have health issues. So a supplement that just targets their coat isn't something you need. You need to look at what else could be causing those issues.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, not to steal your thunder at all, but I just want to point that out.
No, very valid, but it also segues beautifully into my product, which was Biomane. For those wondering what Biomane is, I'm specifically looking at the Biomane equine pellets. They now have like a range of products. They have like Biomane tail bags and like shampoo and conditioner. But essentially, it's a pelleted supplement that is advertised to support equine hair growth, which would be, their mane, tail, and their coat. And their slogan, which I can't help but laugh at their slogan, and I can't tell if it's like funny or if it's awful. I just can't tell. So you can be the judge of that.
Okay, I'm ready.
Their slogan is, "A scoop a day will keep the ugly away."
That's so sad.
I couldn't stop laughing when I read that. It says, "A scoop a day will keep the ugly away." And this is on their website. I didn't get this from some blog post or anything. This is their slogan.
That's sad, but also kind of funny. That's sad, but kind of funny.
I know. So I was like, is it sad or is it funny? I don't know. Do they mean?
I can't tell.
I don't know either. I don't know what their intentions were with it.
It's a little judgy. It feels just a little judgy.
Right. It feels super judgy, but okay, to each their own. But Biomane is said to include, they claim to include amino acids, proteins, vitamins, and other nutrients to support hair growth. And they often claim to be the only equine supplement proven to regrow manes and tails, which I don't know where that comes from, because they don't have any research looking into. There's research out there that looks at different individual ingredients like zinc or something and how that impacts the horse's hair growth or their system. But there's nothing that actually looks at a supplement that combines all these different things together and how that impacts the horse. So I don't know where they get that claim that they're the only equine supplement proven to regrow manes and tails, because I'm pretty sure that's not the supplement doing the regrowth. That's the horse themselves.
Yeah, they all like to make claims like that they're the only ones and they're all worded very specific. So that, it's like you're the cutest dog in the kitchen right now with a blue collar. I feel like that is the game a lot of these supplements play.
So what exactly is in Biomane and their guaranteed analysis, which is the amount of nutrients the manufacturer guarantees in their feed, which means their ingredient label has a lot of different things listed on it. Their guaranteed analysis, that's what you're going to find in it every single time. That's really what's in it. So for the guaranteed analysis of what is in Biomane, they have crude protein at 14%, crude fat at 5%, crude fiber they have at 6%. They have calcium in it, phosphorus, selenium, copper, vitamin A, and vitamin E, all within Biomane. And it comes out to be about $40 for a 30-day supply. They do have subscription programs. That way I think it can kind of change the price, but it's roughly around $40 for a 30-day supply. The important thing when you're looking at a hair growth supplement is what actually impacts hair growth. That includes what actually impacts how fast hair grows, because I know it's a big reason why a lot of people seek these out is because they want a luscious mane or a luscious tail really quick and really fast. Ingredients that actually matter in terms of a horse's hair growth, if the horse's diet is deficient in them, is protein, fat, iodine, copper, zinc, phosphorus, vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin C. On the flip side, the dietary ingredients to look out for that your horse's system can be in excess of that would also lead to dry or brittle hair would be an excess of selenium, iodine, or vitamin A. So while iodine and vitamin A can either be a deficiency that affects their hair or an excess that affects their hair, it's kind of one of those that you kind of ride a fine line with. But I think it's interesting that all the things that go into creating healthy hair are not all the ingredients within BioMain.
Well, when you were reading the ingredients list, it sounded more like the back of my grain bag, almost like a quality grain.
Yes.
It just sounds like a vitamin and mineral with like fat and protein. Like it just sounds like a ration balancer more than anything.
It does. It comes across, and I'm going to get into that at the very end, which is basically ration balancer or trace mineral supplement is all you need.
Yeah.
Like this isn't anything special. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is that all its ingredients, you take away, like you have the crude protein, fat, fiber, even the selenium that is within BioMain. Selenium is something that our horses actually get quite a bit of in their day-to-day feed. They get that through grazing every day. They get that through their hay, and that's included within their grain, and they don't need a lot of selenium. That is something that you should look at your soils for to see if your horse is potentially getting too much selenium, because selenium toxicity has been known to occur.
Well, and then you do have the reverse, is that in the Pacific Northwest, we are selenium deficient in our soils. So we, on this side, that's why it's really important to buy a feed that is specifically manufactured for your region so that those considerations are taken in.
Right. So just to break it down a little bit further on these individual, I don't know what to call them. Are they ingredients? Like, what would you call, like, the protein, fat, and iodine?
We call them ingredients. That's fine. What's the nutrients? They're the nutrients? Like, what do you call them?
Nutrients. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so to break down kind of the different nutrients, just to take this a step farther, that way we understand what the purpose of each of these nutrients plays in the growth of our horse's mane. So first, taking a look at protein, we know hair is predominantly a protein-based tissue with a high percentage of sulfur contained in amino acid residues. A lot of times, if a horse is having too much selenium in their system, that selenium replaces sulfur in the amino acid chain of the hair, reducing the hair's strength. Fats, the lipid content of the hair, is comprised of free fatty acids, and these fatty acids help create the sebum, which is secreted by the sebaceous glands. Essentially, the sebum is like this oil that is next to the hair follicles, and that is what makes the hair shiny and helps produce the kind of water-resistant layer that horses' coats have, as well as helps fight against microorganisms. And it's that natural oil to their coat. Fatty acids are very important in helping produce sebum. And a study done in 1998 observed that there was a significant improvement in the coat, mane, and tail appearance in terms of gloss and softness following a fat supplementation, where they reported seeing an increase in sebum secretion. So they saw an increase in that naturally producing oil on the horse's coat. Iodine is essential in the production of thyroxine, and increased thyroxine levels have been shown to stimulate hair growth in both humans and dogs. However, no research has been done on thyroxine in horses to show that it increases their hair growth, but there was a study that looked at mares with low thyroxine levels and noted that they had coarser coats. When low levels of zinc occur, they have been reported to cause alopecia in several species, dogs, goats, cattle, and sheep, and yet once again, you can't really find anything looking at the clinical zinc deficiencies in horses, but experimentally induced zinc deficiencies have led to hair loss. Copper deficiencies result in fiber depigmentation and loss of hair, tensile strength, and elasticity, leading to breakage. And then there's different vitamins that go into the hair's growth. You have vitamin A, which contributes to producing healthy inner and outer root sheath and hair matrix cells. Commonly, vitamin A deficiencies are seen in foals or foaling mares. Vitamin C is important for hair growth and stability through facilitating the formation of disulfide linkages in keratin. And then vitamin E, in conjunction with selenium, provides the natural antioxidants and help maintain cell membrane stability. And vitamin E has also been known to increase the horse's metabolism, and an increased metabolism can increase hair growth. That was all a lot of technical jargon that probably most of us didn't really fully take in and break down. But what this all goes to show, and bring it back to BioMain, is that a balanced diet is what is necessary. All these things, all these different nutrients can be obtained through a balanced diet. If your horse has a balanced diet, then they will have all the appropriate amount of minerals, proteins, and vitamins required to maintain a quality coat, mane, and tail. Rather than, I guess, going out and buying something like BioMain to help your horse's coat grow better, I would suggest getting your own horse's hay, grain, and like the soils in your area checked out, or like talk to a nutritionalist for your horse and see if they are missing something in their diet. So see, if they have a balanced diet, if they don't have a balanced diet, check out what ration balancers you could use, or like what trace mineral supplements that they potentially need. That is what is going to make the biggest difference on your horse's coat, mane, and tail.
Well, and as you mentioned in the beginning, that like if you're seeing signs in the coat, you're also having issues elsewhere. So just focusing on biomane, even though biomane isn't just targeted at hair growth, it's about balancing the diet. Like you want to make sure that you don't have deficiencies elsewhere that are causing other problems.
Right, exactly. And in addition to that, other things that go into impacting your horse's quality of coat is a regular grooming regime. Like just, spritzing them down with show sheen doesn't give their coat that deep shine of a good diet and regular grooming. And like in addition to the regular grooming regime, it doesn't mean brush your horse's tail every single day, because brushing their tail every day rips out hairs that, go into making their tail look nice and full, and those tail hairs take years to replace. If you really want to be giving your horse something to grow a healthier coat, I would recommend something that's high in omega-3s or fats like rice bran. A balanced diet is really what it's going to come down to and making the biggest difference. Also, good news. I read one study as I was going through it, which evaluated like what prohibited drugs you can identify through a horse's hair analysis. And apparently, you cannot tell if a horse has been doped with cocaine through their hair.
That's really good to know, because that's gonna impact me for sure.
Yeah, I was reading it and I was like, whoa, that one kind of came out of left field. I just didn't expect cocaine to pop up in a horse hair analysis study.
That also means that a horse is on cocaine?
Oh, that totally means they gave a horse cocaine to see if you could see cocaine in their hair.
Yeah, so then that brings us back to like the ethics of research. We're like, that horse, did we need the horse to take cocaine? Did he need to do that?
Did he need to be on coke? No. No, he didn't. Should we ever be putting our horses on coke? Also, probably not.
But that comes back to like the show jumpers, right? There's this, I don't know who it is, but there's a rumor that some show jumpers give their horses cocaine. And by like, I don't know who it is, I've not sat down to like research, because I really just don't need the answer to who gives their horse cocaine. But apparently it does wonders in the show jump arena.
Which is terrifying.
So the next one is GutX. And this is the one whose website honestly feels like it was written by a high schooler trying to hit like a certain word count, because again, they just use those vague statements. But GutX is a little bit different of a supplement, as that it is a like liquid, or I just have never fed liquid supplements other than like corn oil, which one of the main ingredients is vegetable glycerin in GutX, so you could see why it's liquid. Also, water is the main ingredient. So the benefits of GutX is that it prevents gastric ulcers, it supports good gut health, it boosts immune response, easy to feed and economical, increased nutritional absorption, USDF and FEI compliant, scientifically proven formula, and 90-day money-back guarantee. It's 100% natural equine gut health. Wow! Basically, their big claim is all around ulcers, that this product not only prevents ulcers, but it also treats ulcers if your horse has ulcers, which a lot of us who are very nervous about giving our horses omeprazole, oh no. The issue with that is it's like super expensive to do a dose. It's like $1,000 for the first treatment, and then you also have to do a second treatment immediately after. So it's like $2,000, and the second treatment is all about like weaning the horse off of it. Otherwise, if you just cut it cold turkey, it can cause the ulcers to come right back and have a lot of unintended consequences. So there is a lot of hesitation with giving the current sort of recommended ulcer treatments, medical recommended ulcer treatments. And so products like GutX actually aren't new. It's not the only one that is trying to find alternative products to treat, prevent, and like relieve ulcers. And by try, I mean others are trying to do research, and GutX is just like hanging their hats on someone else's really bad research. So the two main ingredients in, or active ingredients in GutX, is hyaluronic acid and beta-glucan. hyaluronic acid, we've kind of touched about this on a previous episode talking about joint health, that hyaluronic acid is well known to be an ingredient in joint supplements and in joints themselves. Whether it actually works as a joint supplement is a question mark. It works good when injected straight into the joint, but question mark when used orally. Just doesn't seem to ever make it to the joints when used orally. So that kind of does start to present a little bit of a question here when we know hyaluronic acid performs best when applied directly to the thing. And then beta-glucans are a source of like soluble fibers that come from bacteria and fungi and yeast. And this is actually what Succeed, also a different supplement, uses for their gut help in their hindgut supplement. So the hyaluronic acid is a little bit new to being used for ulcer treatment, and a lot of people do question it because where did this come from? That hyaluronic acid is used for treating ulcers, like that is a question mark. But the beta-glucans have been used in other like hindgut supplements, so that seems to make some sense. It does have a lot of hyaluronic acid in it. It's 200 milligrams. And they don't say if this is per ounce, but I assume they mean per ounce, not per jug. Because if it's per jug, that's not a lot. But normally a feed label will say what that breakdown is per ounce or per serving or whatever. And they don't do that, which is strange. Can hyaluronic acid treat ulcers, right? That's sort of the question. Does this combination actually work to treat ulcers? And all over their websites, they reference a Solvis 2016 study, which is not how you quote studies, but that's okay. This is a study that was done in 2016. Yeah, thankfully Solvis is a kind of uncommon name that I was able to find the study, but you've got to give a little bit more information than just the name of one researcher involved. So this study is titled Polysaccharide Treatment Reduces Gastric Ulceration in Active Horses. This was conducted by Haggard Hospital, which is in Lexington, Kentucky. And in this study, they had 10 horses that had come into the vet clinic and were scoped and found to have ulcers of sort of differing grades. But all 10 of these horses were horses that came in, they had ulcers, and they recommended for this study to feed a company called Cogent Solutions. They're also based in Lexington. Their website wasn't working when I tried to look at it earlier, and it might have been my bad internet. I don't know, but I've never heard of Cogent Solutions before. But they are located in Lexington, Kentucky, which so is Hagyard Hospital. So wink, wink, that there's a connection there. For the dosing, the horses were given 240 milligrams of HA and 120 milligrams of beta-glucan. The amount that they were provided per serving depended on how bad their ulcers were. So that's not something that a GutX takes into consideration, that you should be feeding this based off of your horse's condition. They just say give 2 pumps or give depending on how much work the horse is in. You give 2 pumps for a horse that's in performance and 1 pump for a maintenance dose. So that's not quite how this study base that determination off. You had to see the ulcer and then determine how much they needed. Anyways, this study found that 90% of the horses that were given this treatment for 30 days improved.
How much though?
By 80% for horses that had grade 2 or grade 3 ulcers.
That's significant.
It is, but hang on. Because they say improve. Improve is a determination. So post-treatment notes, positive response, monumental improvement in attitude. So that's horse 1. Positive response for horse 2. Horse 3, positive response, improved attitude, appetite, brighter, no longer girthy. So yes, these horses were scoped. Some of them were re-scoped, but I don't know whose. They only showed me a couple images of before and after. And yes, it does look like there was a big improvement. But what they found was that it was only the horses with the medium grade ulcers, 2 or 3, not the horses with low grade or high grade. And that improvement was based a lot around their attitude. So a few things with this study to note that are unfortunately major red flags is the first thing, that the horses that were part of this research, these 10 horses, were not part of a research study or isolated for that research. What that means is that these horses came in, their owners decided to participate by giving them this supplement for 30 days, but those horses lived at their normal house with their owners. there was no control. Who knows what they were being fed? Who knows what their turnout situation, their exercise situation, their stress load? I would think many horse owners who just found out their horses were diagnosed with an ulcer would probably make other lifestyle and diet changes in order to support that horse. Right? They probably didn't just do this supplement. They probably realized the horse needs more turnout or less work or needs more alfalfa or needs a different diet. So we don't know what other changes occurred.
Yeah, that's a lot of moving variables that are going unaccounted for.
A lot of moving variables. Another one is that ulcers change on their own. So ulcers can heal on their own. They can get worse, get better, all on their own without our interference. But we don't know for these horses what rate of improvement or not improvement these ulcers would have had. So they're not static. They change, but there was no control. We didn't look at these horses for 30 days before to measure the changes of their ulcers. We had no other information other than what they walked into the hospital with that day and what they left the hospital with like 30 days later, or like re-scanned 30 days later. We have no information about what those ulcers would have done on their own without change. The third issue is that they made up their own scoring system for the ulcers / modified an existing one that is not applicable to all ulcer types. So grades 1, 2, 3, and 4 is what they base their research off of. Grades 1, 2, 3, 4 is not the standard and does not apply to all ulcer types because there are different types of ulcers. So their determination of how bad an ulcer was their own sort of categorization of them. Red flag number 4 is that improvement was vaguely defined and mostly based on behavior. Again, based on all the other red flags, we don't know why that improvement in the horse's behavior occurred.
Right. You can't just say it's because of that ingredient.
Exactly, right? Because they could have, we don't know that those owners didn't make other changes to those horses, right? Again, if you just found out your horse has severe ulcers, I'm guessing you're going to make a bunch of changes in order to help your horse. You're not going to be like, well, that sucks, buddy. Hope this supplement works. The final red flag, the gentleman who conducted the study, Nathan Silvis, directly was compensated by the company for products based on the sales, like due to this research.
Oh, okay.
So if this research triggered sales, he was likely then compensated.
Okay, so that's not how unbiased research works.
No. This is actually basically an advertisement.
Yeah.
And he does mention all of these things in the research. All of these issues and red flags pointed out in the conclusions of this study. All that to say is, yes, these ingredients did something. We need a lot more information. And GutX cites this research as being like, see, our product works. Wasn't their product, wasn't their dosing, wasn't like, we don't know if this product works. We know that, 90% of the horses had behavior improvements.
Wow. And you know what? That's actually such a common theme of these companies saying, like, look at this research, it proves our product works. It's not their product. It's not even the same exact ingredient. Like, it's a different combination and it's not the same dosage. It's not the same, like, application.
GutX is really bad at it. They even, I think, hyaluronic acid, they cite a study into hyaluronic acid that looks at hyaluronic acid as an injectable into the joints. What does that have to do with what you're doing? Like, that has nothing to do with you. And then they also cite like the omeprazole studies saying like, look, it's bad. It can also, so our product must be good. Like, it kind of like, it like leaves a gap for you to interpret that their product must be good. So just a few final comments about GutX. RateMySupplements.com is kind of a cool website. She does have a bunch of detailed reviews into different supplements. She doesn't have a ton of supplements, but there's a handful on there, including GutX. She reached out to the manufacturers to ask if they have a guaranteed analysis and if they do one post-manufacturing. And the response was like, no, we don't do that. So we don't even know what quantities are in this product once it's manufactured. They don't do it. They did say they looked at the ingredients post manufacturing to make sure there's no like toxins or heavy metals in it. So that's really great. But then you have to make sure that you like get it correctly in the right dosage. So like I said, that 400 mgs per dose is really high when a standard like joint supplement for HA is around 100 to 150 mgs. So 400 seems strange, and it's like $113 a gallon. And I guess I don't know exactly how fast you would go through that. A pump is supposed to be 1 ounce, and you could give 1 or 2. So I think it's supposed to be a 90-day supply, but I'm not exactly sure. So just a few other notes about GutX, because I think they also use some interesting maybe advertising, promotion. They, on their website, claim that they give 10% of their proceeds each month to charities, which is really honorable. However, the only confirmation or evidence that they do this on their website is a quote from Ben C., whoever Ben C. is, that says, "Thanks for the donations." What? Thanks, Ben C. Yeah, on their website, it says, like, I think it's, "We are grateful for all the donations." Ben. Who's Ben? Who does Ben represent? What's Ben? Why do we have Ben here?
Is it only to Ben? Are they only donating to Ben?
I think only Ben. Only Ben C got a donation. This is the part of their website where things are like super weirdly vague. So they say donations. Millions of people give to nonprofit organizations on a regular basis to support causes they, quote, truly stand behind. Why are we putting truly in quotes? What does that mean? Like, what do you mean truly stand behind? Is that like advertisement speak for like wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Like, we support these companies? Like, not really?
I don't know. They're really throwing shade, though.
Right. Why did you truly? You didn't need to like quote that, I think. Like, I don't think you know what those mean. And then, so it continues. Having the ability to improve the lives of horses for many people is a privilege and honor, and one that comes with its own sense of grace. Acting upon these selfless acts is an important way to reinforce personal beliefs by participating in such a way that is true to your ethical morals and values.
Wow, that was a lot to say nothing.
That was a lot to say nothing. And like, so do you donate to horse rescues and sanctuaries? Because then you go on to put a video on your website that is for Black Beauty Ranch. It's a promotional video for Black Beauty Ranch. Literally has nothing to do with your company. Black Beauty Ranch is also located in Texas, where GutX's headquarters is. So like, is that the connection you're trying to say? Also, Black Beauty Ranch is super cool. It's this huge 1,000-acre sanctuary for all types of animals. This is like a very well-funded, well-endowed sanctuary that probably does not need a ton of support from GutX. Not that that isn't honorable, but like, what? Why is this on your web?
Maybe that's who they're donating to. Maybe Ben C works for them.
But then say that? Because this is a promotional video for the sanctuary. Nothing to do with them. They did have on their Facebook, I think back in December, that they have donated up to 130 gallons of GutX. And they list a couple different rescues that they've donated to, and it just says like how many they've donated to each rescue. But I can't find, like, I did Google, like, you know, 100X Equine, that's the company's name, donations, trying to find confirmation other than this posting on Facebook that they've donated. Unfortunately, like, you can't, like, there's no way for the public to research who they actually donate to. That's not something that's like publicly tracked and we would have access to. But it's a really weird, like, if you donate it, why isn't this like better known? It doesn't seem like it's a secret. I don't know, it's just really confusing to me. It feels like it's a ploy to get dollars, to like, look how good we are. We have morals and values. Truly, quote, quote. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. There's something fishy going on there. The other weird thing, and I don't know if this is an old business model or what it was, maybe a listener knows or can fill me in on what this is, but when I was Googling this company, 100X Equine, I kept finding LinkedIn profiles for people severely underqualified to have the job title of equine nutritionist at 100X Equine. I kept finding real estate agents that had this as a job title, nurses, like human nurses. I kept, like, people that worked in like business and marketing that were stating in their LinkedIn that they were an equine nutritionist at 100X. It felt a little MLM-y to me, but when I went to the website, it seemed like I could buy their product right there and that I didn't need to go through an equine nutritionist or someone else. So I don't know what that was, but I found quite a few, like half a dozen people that had that listed as their job title, that clearly no qualifications to have that as their job title.
That's weird. That's a big red flag.
So my final thoughts is that you probably don't need this product, even if it is quality hyaluronic acid, and hyaluronic acid does do something for ulcers, because the thing with hyaluronic acid not being useful as joint supplements is not only does it have to be absorbed, like, orally. It has to be absorbed and then make it to the joints. Hyaluronic acid would be like an ulcer would be directly in the stomach, right? So it would almost be a direct application, but then I don't know, like there's no research on like what happens next, right? Like aloe vera, for example, is something that people say will help prevent ulcers if you feed your horses aloe vera. The thing is, aloe vera only lasts in the stomach for a short period of time. It doesn't last long enough to be an actual buffer and prevent the stomach acid from causing further ulcers. So it's right. So would hyaluronic acid be the same way? So yeah, I wouldn't buy from this company. I get really weird vibes from them. There's something off, and maybe they're in the process of cleaning things up and it will become more above board, but I don't know. I don't get great vibes from this company.
Interesting. Does that mean we're ready for our last and final product we dug into, or final supplement?
Yes, I think we are.
Well, now that you guys are all stressed out about what you want to use for supplements, I got the perfect one for you. It's called Stressless.
Awesome. I love it. I mean, it is a catchy name.
It is a catchy name. Yeah, it is interesting. It's an odd one. Who is it that always, why can't I think of his name now? I didn't write it down.
John Holling or Rick Wallace. It's one of those. It's their podcast.
It's not Rick Wallace, then it's John Holling.
Then it's John Holling. Yeah, they're always talking about it on their podcast.
Always talking about it on their podcast, always promoting it. So we definitely wanted to look into it. And essentially what Stressless is supposed to be is it is an all-natural mood-balancing equine supplement and can promote decreased signs of stress such as agitation, poor appetite, and poor performance.
Which, I already hate it. Something that's targeted at like a mood balancer for a horse. Like, ugh, gross.
And it is not cheap. It's about $150 for a 60-day supply. However,
Yikes.
Those who have used it say it comes out to be more like 45 days worth at the 2 scoops a day that you're recommended to feed your horse.
Because they don't weigh the containers before they ship them?
I don't know. I don't know if that's why. I read quite a few different people saying that like they used it, but it was more around 45 days is how long it lasted at the recommended dose. So, and in all honesty, their website was not very easy to go through. It wasn't very transparent. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't very transparent. Like, for instance, they had their ingredients list completely in a separate tab. Like, you could not see what the ingredients were looking at the tab to buy the product. So you're looking at it, you can add the product to your cart, but there's nothing linking there with the product to show you what is in it. Like, you have to go through a separate, like, about and then ingredients. It was very confusing, and I was lucky I came across it because I was like, I am so lost at this point. It claims to work by promoting increased... Sorry, the words they use are entertaining. It claims to work by promoting increased receptivity for behavior modification / training and promotes reduced anxiety in situations such as travel, moving, adoption, meeting new animals / people, showing, medical procedures, or prolonged stall rest.
I love adoption. Like the horse knows it's being adopted.
I like to imagine the horse is adopting someone. They're like, yeah, I gotta calm down before I take the new person on. And I love the like increased receptivity for behavior modification. Like, what does that mean?
That, yeah.
Or you could have just said compliant. Like, why did you say that? It is sold by Centerline Distribution LLC, which is located in Florida. And its serving size is 2 grams. And their guaranteed analysis says that what is inside Stressless is protein, fat, which is less than 1%, hydrolyzed casein at 800 milligrams, and this is their main active ingredient. Like, this is the ingredient that they're banking on. They also included in their guaranteed analysis 0% fiber, which why they include that as an ingredient when there is none is beyond me, especially since energy-dense feeds are typically those with less than 7% fiber, and like those with above 12% fiber are considered low energy. First off, why are you including that, saying that there's 0% of this in your feed? If it's even 1% of fiber, then it would be considered somewhat of like an energy dense feed, and you're clearly trying to mellow horses out. So like, why did you put this on there?
Yeah, that is weird, but I guess good to know it has no fiber in it.
I guess so. And then the last ingredient, which I promise you, I looked up, and I don't know if it's just a typo or what, but they said that there's 2% moisture in the product. And I don't know if that they meant to say like moisture is in the product, but I could not find anything. I don't know. I could be insane and missing something. I do not know what moisturin is.
Like silicone dioxide that's also in there? That is it like an anti-caking? Like an anti... like
Oh, maybe like keeps moisture from building up in one spot and like clumping?
Yeah, maybe it's something to do... maybe it's like one of those type of ingredients.
But they're most... like the ingredient that is stressless is their hydrolyzed casein. And casein is a protein that is derived from bovine milk, which is cow milk. I don't know why everyone has to call it a bovine. I get this is a scientific term, but just call it a cow. And casein has a well-documented history of having calming effects on other species like cats and dogs as well as people. However, hydrolyzed casein has not been researched within horses. The only studies that have looked at that in particular have looked at just people. And it seems to have somewhat decent results in people, but people aren't the same as horses. Like their bodies don't break things down the same way, as well as that doesn't give us an idea of what the dose should be for horses. That being said, I found a study from 2014 that looked into the effects of something derived out of casein. They took 26 mares and performed a series of medical exams on them and evaluated their behavior throughout the exam. And their behavior was scored on their level of compliance and comfort level with each procedure. So that included like them walking into the medical bay, them having their temperature taken, and so on and so forth. And for each procedure, their behavior was scaled or scored from somewhere between 0 to 10. 0 being the horse was unable to progress, like they couldn't do that procedure, to 10 being that they were relaxed and completely compliant. Out of those 26 horses, they took 10 of which who exhibited enough discomfort to be considered, and then those 10 horses were each paired with another horse based on their breed and which medical exam that they had like similar aversions to. And from there, one horse from each pairing was randomly assigned the use of alpha-casosifene. Casosifene.
Good tight.
You know what? I know I'm going to be saying it wrong. So I'm aware I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but we're just going to call it alpha-casosifene, which is a derivative from casein at a dose of 2,000 milligrams per day. They were giving it to 5 different horses for a period of 5 days. Day 5, they took the horses back through the same 12 medical exams they performed previously and analyzed their behavior once again. Those that had received alpha-casosifene saw an improvement in their behavior in 7 out of their 10 aversions they had shown, and that the average improvement was of 1.5, somewhere between their 0 to 10 scale. So if they had been a 6 before, they became a 7.5 in their compliance and relaxation.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like it helped.
It doesn't sound like it made that big of a difference. They concluded that there is a modest benefit from the use of alpha-casosifene to improve compliance and apparent comfort. And they also made a note that the handlers had a difficult time telling if there was an improvement at all. So there really wasn't a huge difference. If there was a difference in the horse's level of calm or compliance, it was modest at best. It was really minimal. The reason I bring this study up is because the recommended dose from Stressless is a 2-gram dose, which would have a total of 800 milligrams of casein. And that is significantly less than the 2,000 milligrams the horses in the study were being given of like a derivative of casein. Even if you're feeding your horse the recommended dosage of 2 scoops per day, you are less than half of what these horses in the study were getting to see modest difference and modest improvement.
Interesting.
In fact, SmartPak sells a similar product called Zilkene Equine that uses alpha-casosifene that doses it at 8 grams per day with a 2,000 milligram dose of alpha-casosifene in it. However, another study that looked specifically at the use of alpha-casosifene and it looked at the product Zilkene Equine on loading horses saw there's basically no difference. I mean, they quoted this study saying, look, it helped these horses load easier, but that's not true. It is true to a degree, but I'm going to explain it to you and you tell me if this is enough for you to be paying like $160 for.
Okay.
They took 10 horses and loaded them once without the use of alpha-casosifene, and then they loaded them later on, 4 days later, with them being dosed up on it. The handler that was handling the horses was blind to the treatment, and the horses had their heart rate, salivary cortisol, and infrared thermography of both core temp and eye temp observed, as well as timing how long it took the horses to load, which they did take quite a few different measurements of these horses.
Yeah, that sounds thorough.
Yeah, they were thorough. They took core temp, they took eye temp, which we know is a direct relation to stress. They took cortisol levels, which once again we know is a direct relation to stress. And they noted that there was no significant difference in physiology between treatment and the control. However, once the horses were treated with the alpha-casosifene, it resulted in a shorter loading time. Do you want to guess how much quicker these horses loaded?
5 seconds.
You wish. The improvement ranged from 0.5 seconds to 13 seconds.
Oh, that's huge. That is huge.
Overall, sure, they all improved on their loading time, but that's really, really, really minimal. If you wanted to say that this helped them improve loading, I would need to see it go from 10 minutes it took to load to drop to 5 minutes.
If you're going to say it improved loading, they walked in. That's what I'm looking for. They walked straight in, they latched themselves, even closed the divider all by themselves. I didn't have to do nothing. That's the sort of improvement I'm looking for.
Well, and all these horses loaded within 77 seconds, even the first time round.
So they weren't even horses that were stressed out by loading?
No, I don't think so. Those two studies I talked about are specifically looking at alpha-casosifene, which is used in the Smart Packs product, the Zalkene Equine. Mm-hmm. But that is a derivative of casein, but that is not the product they didn't break it down to that ingredient for the stressless. They have it in the hydrolyzed casein.
But, could we argue that makes it more potent then, since it's the, original form?
I don't know, because there's no studies looking into the horses. And the studies that look into people, it's really hard to see how much they are being given. And that doesn't tell you what we should be dosing our horses with. And then on top of that, even with the one ingredient we know that comes out of casein, the dosage is way too low for it to be doing anything really.
Yeah, and we know that horses and humans, the thing I feel like we keep coming back to is that their metabolisms are not the same. So when we're looking at horse to human supplements, it just doesn't work. Taking human research and applying it to horses does not work because they have different nutrition needs.
Right. And so those two studies I've seen quoted saying that look, these products do have an effect. They do, calm the horse and make them more compliant. But both of them found if there was a difference, it was really modest. Really, the only ones that I have seen that have shown a slightly bigger difference have been studies looking at people. And I know they're getting a much bigger dose. So, yeah, casein is sought after because they think, newborns, when they drink milk, it has a calming effect on them. That is why they seek it out. And for that reason, casein is not ethically sourced. And I think for that reason alone, I would strongly avoid using products with casein in it or alpha-casosifene that requires casein to get that ingredient.
Well, I think when you're probably not getting an organic milk product that is raised on that farm the local farm just down the street, right? You're getting a product that make it to Florida for a horse supplement probably didn't have the most ethical sourcing to begin with.
Right. So would I recommend stressless? No. One, I don't like how it's sourced with casein. And then on top of that, It's not affordable. Even if you even if the studies, plenty of people have sent reviews, have claimed, you hear these top vendors constantly pushing it, saying, oh, it's great, it's awesome, it's great. Even with that, it's not affordable. The dosing is $150 for 60 days, but most people are saying that comes out to be around more 45 days giving the dose they say. And on top of that, it's if you did feed the amount of a higher dosage so your horse was actually getting the required amount, it's so expensive.
Well, and the frustrating thing with products like this is with Equinety, back on that one, I'd say put a pin in it. I feel like there's some thought behind that. It could actually work. It's not replacing good training, or maybe, if it's used in a certain situation, it's not replacing a good diet. Some of these other stuff is just replacing you should already be feeding your horse a good diet, that you don't need Biomain, or you should learn how to work with your horse in a way that they're not stressed out.
Right,
to
exactly.
need a daily supplement.
That's our supplements for you, ladies and gents.
Yeah, hopefully we answered a few questions you guys have about products that you've seen on your Facebook feed all the time or heard mentioned in other podcasts or other platforms that, again, you guys probably don't need a supplement for your horse. The truth is that a better diet is probably what you need. A better quality grain, a better quality hay, and just some maybe patience.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys liked it. I hope we got some of your questions answered. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out to us on Instagram at inthebarn.pod, or you can send us emails at inthebarnpod@gmail.com.
And I guess with that, stay safe, stay in the saddle, and
don't feed stressless.
Yeah, stay out of the supplement aisle. Just stay away, guys. You really don't need them. I promise you don't need them. You're not a bad owner because you're not buying supplements.